Bosch is not a character that necessarily evolves in the same way as other people do.
Well, hello, my name is Russ Milheim from the Direct. Thank you for talking to me today about Bosch.
Okay, what do you got going on in those cases behind you? I'm very curious.
I
Is that
got some
Carnage?
Venom and Carnage, and then some Star Wars, Hera and Ahsoka. I'm in the way of my own stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I just saw today. It came up in my feed that Hot Toys has made this new Ahsoka in her white garb with her white poncho, and I was literally rewatching Ahsoka. Started rewatching it last night for I think the fourth time. Thank you very
Nice.
much. So we are kindred spirits, my brother, but we're not. We could do a whole separate show just about what's happening in your background.
I gotta see
Um,
your hot toy collection.
yeah, it's a bit obscene. 99.9% of it is in storage in my house, but I have a few little key pieces because in the house that I live in now and have for the past few years, there isn't enough space. Put it this way, I would have to build an addition on my house just to to put on. Uh, so I keep it very simple. I have the sort of the crown jewel is a big chap alien that was digitally scanned from the original suit that was worn in the first Ridley Scott film, and so it's an absolutely flawless rendition, and it's quite big. It's like
Yeah.
30 inches, um, but accompanied by Mando and a couple of other the the mythos Obi-Wan Kenobi. And okay, I got to stop. See what you've done. This is
I see what
yeah.
I've done. I see what I've done. Well, when it comes to Bosch, you have played this character for 11 years now. Looking back at just this last season, how would you say that Bosch's journey in these recent episodes are truly a product of the long journey that you have been on with him?
Well, I think over the years, Bosch is not a character that necessarily evolves in the same way as other people do. He tends to evolve more within the circumstances that surround him. And I think part of his evolution and emotional growth uh, comes from his relationship to his daughter. Maddie. And so as we've seen her grow into an adult, some of the there's been a bit of role reversal, but she's really truly the only person that can, at one point I remember she had a line where she said, "You're like a turtle in a shell and you don't let anybody in, not even me sometimes." But we've seen him come out, but now we find him now in this third and final season of Legacy. Um, Probably more inside of his shell than ever, and with these questions that are around him, which are plaguing his daughter and making really putting a strain on their relationship as she's found been given this information from his time in war in Afghanistan. Um, it creates for some really interesting drama.
We're talking about evolution of Bosch himself. For you, what would you say was the most surprising kind of evolution or change that the character has gone through over this journey?
I think he has become more emotionally demonstrative, for lack of a better word. His ability, his empathy has always been, and his moral compass is really at the center of who that character is, which is what makes him such an intriguing and accessible character. But I think there's a lot of, as he's aged and things, we've seen him express emotion, which was always very, very concealed to a certain point, which was part of the interesting aspects of acting this character. How do you let the audience in just enough so they have a sense of what's going on without showing them what they should be feeling? And so I think his outward demonstration of emotion at times. His pain coming more to the surface, and his empathy and how that manifests into pain, particularly in the season with this family that's disappeared. Um, I think has been the sort of largest kind of step forward for that character over 10 years, 11 years.
Is there like just for you personally, is there a habit or like a tick from Bosch as a character that has kind of just stuck with you, even off screen in your own personal life?
Well, I think there's something do, that I, Titus, do that ultimately ended up becoming sort of a tick, um, that I became aware of because my family sort of brought it to my attention, which is that when I get agitated or if someone's not being truthful with me, I tend to cock my head to the side a bit, and perhaps step forward. And so that kind of bled into the character, um, and I just kind of left it. At first, it made me terribly self-conscious, and I said, "Oh, well, the idea is to kind of disappear, but you can't, as an actor, you can't help but have certain affect creep in um, to it." So I suppose that's one of them.
Yeah. I want to ask real quick about the third Bosch show that it's on its way, Ballard.
Hmm.
What can you tease about it?
Well, we introduce Renee Ballard in the 10th and final episode of this season. That's where she and Harry cross paths, and as anyone who reads the books knows, that's a very, very important relationship in the Bosch canon. Um, he becomes kind of a mentor and has an almost paternal relationship with her. We don't really have the time to establish that because not enough time passes in one episode, but we see them kind of come at a point of impact, and then they both have the same intent, which is to solve a case, and so they sort of are forced to work together. Um, and then with Ballard, then you'll be diving into her world, which is the cold case world, and how she operates within a you know slightly poorly or underfunded unit, and a host of new characters. So I'm very excited. Maggie Q is exquisite in her interpretation of the character. I think people are going to be really, because really, the people who read the books in the same way as they read the Bosch books, everybody has an idea about who that character looks like and who they sound like, and Maggie to me is the perfect fit.
Now, fans are, expecting the show to air, this year. Is there any teasers you can offer of when exactly, we'll be able to dive back into this world with a spin-off?
Don't I don't know. No official air date drop has been announced, but I'm thinking that it's going to certainly come out in 2025, but that's above my pay grade.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I'm very excited for it to come out, because I think, um, despite the fact it's a different show,
Yeah.
obviously, um, Maggie, at the helm as the lead character, is going to be something that people are really going to enjoy.
Now, you mentioned, this last episode is going to be introducing, Maggie Q, but it's also going to be the series finale of Bosch Legacy. So can you just tease how the show will both set up this new spinoff, but then also still serve as a fitting and satisfying conclusion to this particular spinoff?
If people are anticipating some kind of closure, that doesn't happen. And as far as it spinning, there's no thread necessarily, a distinct thread that says to the audience, okay, and that's Maggie Q, and get ready for Ballard. You meet Ballard, you see and Bosch work together. You see there certain similarities, and so it sets up her character very well. But it does not have any closure or any sense of goodbye to it.
Thank you for talking to me today about the show. I look forward to you getting to see it myself, people getting to see this, and then dive into that new spinoff.
Well, thanks for having me, and
Of course.
carry on with that collecting. It looks like you're on your way.